Well, hello fellow veterans and possibly civilians looking to join the military. I created this video to help you get a better understanding of your education benefits. The reason I created this is because when I joined the military back in 2010, I was 19, and when I went to sign the contract, they threw some numbers at me and I really didn't understand exactly what I was going to get and exactly how to use the education benefits that were available to me. So this video is going to go through and explain from a reservist standpoint in the beginning exactly what's available to you and possibly what's in your contract and how to use it, what you're actually going to get, not just what the contract says, and how taxes apply and things like that. So that's the idea. Now, who's this video for? The good thing is that most of the benefits I'll talk about are going to be cross-branch. They're all just from the VA, so it doesn't matter if you're Navy Reserve or Air Force Reserve. I was Army Reserve, but most of them should apply to you. But again, it just depends upon what's in your contract, and we'll talk about that as we go along. So let's start just with an overview of what benefits I'm going to cover here. And the ones that I'm going to cover are the Enlistment Bonus, Montgomery GI Bill. I'll specifically be speaking about the Selected Reserve GI Bill. There is an active duty. This one is specifically going to be the Selected Reserve. Then we'll talk about Montgomery GI Bill Kicker, Student Loan Repayment Program, Tuition Assistance, Post 9/11 GI Bill, and Exam Reimbursement through the Post 9/11. Now there's a reason I grouped them like this, with the top 4 and then 3 below. The top 4 are the ones that are most likely going to be explicitly written into your contract, meaning when you get to the final stage at MEPS and you're sitting down with a counselor and she's going over your contract and you sign about 20 times, this is what's going to be explained to you, and you should actually have to sign for each of these, and they'll say, do you understand your Montgomery GI Bill Kicker? And here's the addendum for it, and then you need to sign it agreeing that you understand everything in the addendum, which really no one ever does. They just go ahead and sign it and then go on their way. So we'll talk about each of these, and then we'll also talk about the things that you might be eligible for but aren't necessarily written into the contract. Okay, so let's talk about the first benefit here, which is going to be the enlistment bonus. Now, this isn't necessarily an education benefit, but it's a major part of your contract, so I thought I'd talk about it first. Now, the enlistment bonus I'm going to be talking about is most likely associated with a 6x2 contract. And what the 6x2 means is that you sign up for 6 years actively drilling status and then 2 years IRR status. So if you don't know what IRR means, it's just when you are still capable of being deployed, it's just that you're not actively drilling. So the bonuses I'll talk about are going to be associated specifically with this contract. There might be other bonuses associated with smaller contracts, but I'm not familiar with those, so we'll just talk about this one for now. The bonuses I'm familiar with are paid out using a 50-25-25 pay structure. What this means is that you get 50% after the completion of your job qualification training, 25% after 2 successful years of completion of your contract, and then 25% again after 4 successful years of your contract being completed. So I have an example here. Let's say a soldier enlists with $10,000 enlistment bonus. So after you complete AIT, you'll get 50% of it. AIT is just your job training, so 50% of 10,000 is just 5,000. You'll get that after becoming MOS qualified. Now, one thing to be aware of, when I joined, I was in college, so I went split op. Now, that will push it off, because if you're split op, you do basic one summer, AIT another summer, so you won't get the first part of your bonus until well after you've completed basic training. It was actually over a year after I completed basic training before I even got the first 50% of my bonus. But so after that, you get another 25%, as I explained, which would be $2,500 after 2 years, and another $2,500 after 4 years. So it's not the original big lump sum like you'd hope it would be, but it's still pretty good. But the other big thing that you have to think about now is that they're going to take some major taxes out of this before they hand it to you. So taxes are deducted before the payment is made to you, and here are the roundabout amounts that I received from my bonus. So the first one was supposed to be $5,000. I only got around $3,600. Other two were only about $1,800 a piece. Now the good thing is, if you're a student in college, you're probably going to get a lot of that back from your education tax credit. So it's really not that bad of a deal. Okay, let's keep rolling. We'll go on to the Montgomery GI Bill Select Reserve. Again, this is catered specifically towards reservists who sign a 6-year obligation and are actively drilling. If you're in the IRR like me right now, you're not eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill. When you enlist that 6-year contract, you get 36 months of benefit, and you might be thinking 36 months, that's less than an undergraduate degree. It takes 4 years to get an undergrad degree, 12 months, 48 months. Well, it's 36 months of actual benefit. So really, academic calendars are only 9 months, August through May, roughly. So 36 months should be enough to get you a full undergrad degree. The actual benefit amount for a full-time student is going to be $369 a month. If you're less than full-time, you're going to get less than that, and it's just divided proportionally. So if you're half-time, you're going to get half of $369 every month. Payments are prorated, meaning that if, like in May, finals week is usually the first week in May, you're only going to get 1 week of benefits. So whatever 1 week of $369 is, that's all you're going to get. So just because you're going to school for 7 days in the month of May, don't expect to get the full payment of $369. The good thing is that taxes are not deducted from this benefit, and the benefit is just paid directly to you. So now, going hand in hand with the Montgomery GI Bill is the Montgomery GI Bill kicker. And this is something that you really want to be aware of, whether it's going to apply to you or not, or whether you think you'll use it or not when you go to actually enlist in the military. So like when I joined back in 2010, I didn't know what job I was going to get, and the MEPS counselor sat me down and said, we have these jobs available, and here are the kicker amounts associated with each job. So now what the kicker actually is that it's just an additional benefit paid over top of that $369 Montgomery GI Bill that you're actually already getting. So typically all the jobs already have that Montgomery GI Bill. It's just that certain jobs are more desired, or maybe they just don't have enough people, so they'll put a kicker on top that will give you a higher benefit while you're a full-time student. So now this is going to be a specific addendum in your contract, and you'll actually have to see the addendum. You'll sign at the bottom of the addendum stating, yes, I understand how the kicker works, I understand what entitles me to get the kicker contract, and when I'm not entitled to get the contract. My addendum has a specific statement that looks like this: soldier entitled to receive $200 kicker for 36 academic months. So the $200 means per month on top of the Montgomery GI Bill, and then it's 36 months just to match that Montgomery GI Bill. Now, you have to be actively drilling in order to receive this benefit. I'm in grad school right now, and I was hoping to end up using that, and I can't use it even though I have it available to me and it's in my contract because I'm in the IRR, like I said, and I'm not actively drilling. Just like the Montgomery GI Bill, the base rate is prorated, and so is this. So again, if you're only in for 7 days in May, or in school for 7 days in May, then they're going to take 7 divided by 30, whatever that percentage is, and then multiply it by your total payment for that month, and that's all you're going to end up getting. And taxes are not going to be deducted, and your benefit is adjusted when you're attending less than the full-time rate. So just similar, really just similar to the Montgomery GI Bill. And the payment is made directly to you. And the reason I'm saying that the payment is made directly to you is that a couple of these benefits are paid directly to the school. So when I say it's paid directly to you, I mean you give the military your bank account, and then they just deposit this money each month on the 1st. Okay, now let's get on to the big one that probably a lot of people want some help understanding, is the student loan repayment program. This one, I guarantee the military gets a lot of people to join just by throwing big numbers of student loan repayment program at them. And like when I joined, I got $30,000 of student loan repayment program, and I thought, wow, $30,000, that's great. My loans are going to be wiped out. It's going to be so nice. But let's talk about exactly how this actually works, because there is a lot of red tape on this program. So first, it makes yearly payments, and it does go directly to your loan provider. You never see any of the money. It's just that you link up your loan provider and the military, and then they end up making the payments. So now, the big thing here is that they make yearly payments, but your student loan payments are going to be monthly. So you still have to pay. You either have to keep paying those monthly payments and then just use the student loan repayment program in addition to your monthly payments, or you can try and call your student loan provider and say, hey, I have military student loan repayment, let's put this in deferment, and then they'll just accept those payments. But maybe your lender might not be willing to do that depending upon the amount. So how much does it actually pay? Typically, the way it works is that they're going to pay 15% of the principal balance, or $1,500. The nice thing is they're going to pay whichever is greater. So the maximum amount that you're actually going to be eligible for will be stated in your contract. So as I said, I was eligible for $30,000, and we'll do an actual example here. So let's say soldier receives $30,000 of SLRP with a maximum yearly benefit of $4,500. Soldier has $40,000 in student loans. So how much per year is this student actually going to end up getting paid towards the loans? Now, the first thing we should be aware of is this $4,500 right here. So I said that the maximum benefit is going to be detailed in your contract. Yes, this $30,000, that's the most that they're going to end up paying out to you. But then with each amount, or with each maximum amount, there's an associated yearly amount. And at least when I joined, the yearly amount associated with $30,000 is $4,500. So now let's see how that actually works. So 15% of $40,000, if you have $40,000 in loans, is going to be $6,000. And you think, wow, $6,000 toward my loan payment, that'd be great. But remember, you have a yearly cap of $4,500. So that $4,500 is going to be the most that they'll pay, but then that's paid before taxes. So now those benefits like the GI Bill and the GI Bill kicker, those are all, no taxes were taken out, paid directly to you. This is paid directly to the loan provider, as I said, and this $4,500 counts as taxable income to you, so they're going to actually take taxes out. So the bad thing is, this $4,500 really is going to get knocked down to around 38 or 37. So as my example here, the payments around that my student loan lender received, it was somewhere between 37 and 3,800. Now again, if you're a full-time student, you're probably going to be able to get some of those taxes back when you actually do your taxes at the end of the year, depending on your education credits. Now, another piece of red tape is that your student loans must be eligible for repayment and must be at least 1 year old. So they have to be 1 year since you received the money from the loan. Then you've either made payments on the loan successfully for a year, or the loan is just like in forbearance until you're done with your degree, but they have to be also loans eligible for repayment, such as like a federal Stafford loan. I know I had private loans at the time. They were private student loans through PNC, and they accepted those. I'm not sure if they're still accepting private loans. You'd have to check and give Go Army Ed a call. But overall, it did help. It's just that you have to be aware of all this red tape and how much you're actually going to end up getting at the end of each year. And then the final thing that you need to be aware of with the student loan repayment program is that, and I think this is really where they get you, is that, so they gave me $30,000 of student loan repayment, but then the maximum amount is $4,500 a year. I signed a 6-year contract, but wait, let's think about this for a second. At $4,500 a year, how many years will it take me to use my whole benefit? It'll take 6.67 years, which is longer than my active drilling status. So think about that. If you want to use your whole benefit that you're entitled to, you actually have to drill longer than your original 6-year active contract. So you have to actually go into your IRR time to use it. So that's one of the biggest things to be aware of. And the smaller this maximum benefit gets, I know some of my friends had 20,000, the more this decreases as well. So if you have 20,000, the yearly benefit might only be 3,500. So it's good to check and good to see exactly how many years it's going to take to actually end up using that. Okay, now on to tuition assistance. And before I even get started on this one, I need to put a small disclaimer in here that of all the benefits I've talked about so far, student loan repayment was difficult to get and you really had to keep after it, but I think tuition assistance requires the most amount of time and your work on your part to actually get going and make sure that the payment is successfully received. And I think it took the longest to receive it as well. So what is tuition assistance? Tuition assistance is just an additional federal benefit that you get by being a reservist. And it's $4,500 yearly cap and pays up to $250 per semester hour for a maximum of 130 semester hours. This benefit is great because it really helps with your tuition, and then you can use your Montgomery GI Bill and kicker for monthly living expenses, and then after that you can use your student loan repayment to pay off any excess loans that you have. So the combination of all these things can really help you get a degree. And now the way this benefit works is that you work through an online system in Go Army Ed, and then It's going to pay directly to the school. You're never going to see this money. It's really similar to student loan repayment. You just do everything on your end, and the money ends up going to who it needs to go to, and then really just should ultimately reduce your amount of debt. So it pays for tuition costs and I believe some fees, but they'll calculate it all out and determine how much you're eligible for. And Go Army Head has a nice little system that you have to apply for each class individually. And the way that it works, the first thing you have to do, from my experience, is that you'll go get your commander to sign and say you're actively drilling as part of a reserve unit. You'll submit that to Go Army Ed, and then at the beginning of each semester, you're required to request TA from each class, and you'll put in how much the class costs, where you're going to school, what the class is, how it fits into your degree plan, all those things, and then they'll approve it. And now the key thing here is that you have to request it before the semester begins. If you don't request it, then you don't get it. It's that simple. Now, student loan repayment, they'll back pay you, so that's very nice. But tuition assistance, they say you don't submit it, you don't get it. So at the beginning of each semester, you just have to make sure that you're submitting it each and every time. You must be actively drilling to get it. And now, I can tell you just in the amount of time between 2010 to 2016, and really to now, I've seen tuition assistance just start to go away, and the requirements to use it get more and more strict. So as an example, I used tuition assistance all throughout my undergrad, and you can use it for a graduate degree as well. And right towards the end of my reserve contract, they were upping the requirements to be able to use it toward a graduate degree. And I can't remember what it was. I think they sent an email out and said you have to be in for 10 years now before you can use tuition assistance to pay for a graduate degree. But if you're willing to put in the time, you can use tuition assistance for both an undergrad and grad degree, at least from what I'm aware of. Now, as I said, I think this one is just a long, painful process, but it is worth it. Just make sure you get the application in, submit your classes on Go Army Ed before the semester ever starts. Now on to post 9/11 GI Bill, which is probably what a lot of you are actually familiar with, or what you hear about or think about when you think GI Bill. So now the GI Bill, first of all, if you're just a reservist who signed up for a 6x2 contract, you're not going to be eligible for this. You become eligible for the GI Bill once you've been deployed to a combat zone or just once you've been on a Title 10 order. I went to Afghanistan for a year, and then once I came back, I was eligible for post 9/11. My wife actually was an MP, and she went to Cuba for a year, and she was on Title 10 orders, so even though she wasn't in a combat zone, she's still eligible for post 9/11 GI Bill. So essentially, you just have to be a reservist, get on some Title 10 order for at least 90 days, and then you'll be eligible for the post 9/11. The way this works is that you're going to be assigned some benefit percentage. So if you serve for 90 days, well, that's the smallest amount of days you can serve to be eligible. You're probably going, well, you are going to end up getting the smallest amount of benefit. And you're going to have to apply for this benefit, and then they'll send you a letter, which is a certificate of eligibility stating what percentage you're essentially entitled to. And we'll talk about how that percentage works in a second. But it pays for tuition, housing, and provides a book stipend. So it's a very powerful benefit. And you get 36 months of benefit, but you have to use it within 15 years of your release from active duty date or your refrad date. Now, an additional 12 months of benefit is available if you're a former reservist that used Montgomery GI Bill. So in my specific situation, I was a reservist. I think I did 3 or 4 years before I was deployed. I had been using my Montgomery GI Bill, got deployed, came back, then I started using my post 9/11. When you sacrifice your Montgomery GI Bill in place of the post 9/11, you get an additional 12 months. I don't know why, but it helps you out so that you do get more out of your post 9/11. So let's talk about how this works. Let's say a soldier serves in Afghanistan for 270 days and is assigned a benefit percentage of 50%. In-state tuition is $10,000 for 12 credits, and that considers him a full-time student. So now 270 days, you can go on the Department of Veteran Affairs and they'll have a nice chart that say, well, if you serve this many days or this many months, then you get this percentage. So you don't have to worry about figuring out this percentage. Once you apply for the benefit, they'll tell you what this is. And now, so let's try and figure out exactly what this soldier is going to end up getting based upon his tuition expenses. So first, the soldier will receive a tuition benefit of $5,000 paid directly to the university. So you'll never see that money. It's just taken off your tuition bill. Next, the soldier will receive approximately $250 for textbooks. And the way this works is I just use the actual rate I'm receiving right now in grad school. The way it works is I'm on 50%. They pay me $20.83 for every credit. So if you're taking 12 credits, that times 12 is just $250 roughly for textbooks. Now, if you have a higher percentage, this is based upon the percentage too. So if you have 100%, you're actually going to get $500 for textbooks. Then the final big thing of this benefit is that you're going to receive a housing stipend. And this is based upon your BAH depending upon your zip code. And if you haven't ever calculated this, there's just a website where you punch in your zip code, and then based upon your zip code, they'll tell you for an E5 or for a sergeant, this is how much the BAH is, and it depends upon rank. So for education benefits, it's all based upon an E5 with dependents. So for example, if you're living in North Carolina, a soldier receive a monthly housing stipend of $745.50 because the BAH in North Carolina is $14.91 for an E5 with dependents. So at the 50% rate, $14.91 times 50% gives you $745.50. And this is payable directly to you. Again, you just give them your bank account information, they'll deposit that every month. So let's move on to the last topic here, and it's still going to be really post 9/11 GI Bill. It's just that now we'll talk about post 9/11 in regards to exam reimbursement. And what I mean by that is that if you are eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill, regardless of what percentage you have, you are eligible to use your post 9/11 to pay for exams. So maybe you want to become a CFA charter holder or something like that. If the exam, you know how much it costs, let's say it costs $1,000, you can use your post 9/11 to reimburse at least a portion of that. Now again, it's still going to be based upon your post 9/11 eligibility ranking. So if you have 50% rating and the exam costs $1,000, the most you're going to end up getting back is going to be $500, just 50% of it. But so it will reimburse up to $2,000 per test, which is nice. But again, you only get that $2,000 if you have the 100% rating for post 9/11. The soldier does not have to pass the test in order to receive payment, which is nice. The only bad thing is that you'll have to sign up for the test, dish out your own money. Then once you get the test completed and you actually have some confirmation of your results, that's what you end up submitting to actually then get payment. Now, the way the payment works and the way they deduct from your post 9/11 is that they always deduct 1 month. It doesn't matter if the test costs $20 or $2,000, but they're going to apply your eligibility percentage, give you that amount, and then deduct 1 month from your post 9/11 GI Bill. So as an example, let's say the soldier takes CFA level 1 for $1,000 and has 50%. Well, obviously he's just going to receive $500 since he's eligible at the 50% rating. Now, one of the things to be aware of here is that it just covers the exam fee, meaning the money that you pay to take the exam. If there are random registration fees or something like that, it's not going to cover those. So to finish up here, let's just talk about a few things that you should be aware of in addition to what I just talked about. So first thing, just as one more reminder, if you're going to go active duty, things are going to be a bit different for you, especially a GI Bill. Make sure you read up on how that's going to actually differ for you if you plan on being active duty for, say, 3 or 4 years under an active contract. Next, states may have their own individual benefits, and really what I'm meaning here is in relation to the National Guard. Let's say you join Maryland National Guard or Pennsylvania National Guard. Depending upon which state you join, the state may have additional benefits on top of the federal education benefits that you're already getting. So that's worth looking into before you decide. Maybe if you're not sure which state you want to go into, maybe check out their benefits before you make a definite decision. Then finally, the Yellow Ribbon Program is worth looking into. You have to have a high rating in post 9/11 in order to receive this, And I haven't used this personally, so I didn't talk about it in here, but it's worth reading about if you already have post 9/11 GI Bill and you know you have a high percentage rating. Then the final thing I'll say is keep looking for benefits. It just amazes me how many education benefits are out there for veterans. And I feel like every time I look, there's a different scholarship or a different university that's offering a certain scholarship. And if you look and continue to look hard and really apply yourself to applying for some of those scholarships, I think you'll be successful. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions on the individual benefits, I'll be happy to answer and reply in a comment.